Hi, I'm Anna,
Hi, I'm Dorian.
and this is the Bugs Bunny Factory, a podcast where we will discuss and give our opinions on every single Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies short in chronological order. Yep, all 1,003 of them, or 1,000 depending on your interpretation, covering an entire year each episode. Today we will be covering 1930 plus the pilot short from 1929, Bosko the Talking Kid. At the end of each episode, we will give our overall thoughts on the year and give our top and bottom five shorts, or in the case of a very short year like this one, we'll just rank them. As we go through each year, we'll keep a ranking of each year to see how they compare to each other. Without further ado, here is the Bugs Bunny Factory.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is kind of crazy that we're doing a podcast. We've been talking about doing this for a long time now.
yeah,
Like months ago, we suggested the idea, and now we're finally recording. It feels good.
yeah. It's pretty crazy. Um, I'm looking
Mm.
forward to it. So, first short, I guess we'll just
Let's,
get right into that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so we have Bosco the Talking Kid. Um, it was originally released in 1929. Well, it wasn't officially released, and it didn't have like an official release until it was shown on Toonheads on March 12th, 2000. So this was, I think it was around on like VHSs that would circulate around, but it did not have an official release until like 70 years after it was made, which is pretty interesting. This was a test pilot, which Harmon and Ising showed Leon Schlesinger to pitch the series, and he liked it, and that's why we have Looney Tunes.
yeah, this is where it all begins. One thing that's worth noting is the history of this of Bosco and the entire studio. Harmonizing were they worked at Disney originally, but they left because they hated Walt Disney and they wanted to beat him at his own game.
Yeah, who doesn't hate
Unfortunately, they didn't
Disney?
really succeed because no one remembers Bosco, but everyone remembers Mickey Mouse. But they tried.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of like racial baggage when it comes to Bosco. He has a black face design. He's described as a little black boy, and especially in this short and the next short, Sinking in the Bathtub, he has a really unfortunate voice and accent that's makes the racial
Yeah,
elements of the cartoons like really stand out. But we can't talk about that
yeah,
in every Bosco short, so just to let you guys know that we're aware of the racial elements in Bosco and what.
yeah. In general, there's a lot of racism throughout this entire series, and it's something that we're going to have to keep addressing. But, it's pretty tied into this character, and there's not really much more ways to analyze it beyond in each individual short.
Yeah, so basically, this cartoon is not much happens. I mean, not much happens in a lot of these early cartoons, but basically, it's Rudolph Ising. He draws Bosco and on like a easel or something, and he comes to life, and he like interacts with the audience, which is kind of ironic considering this was never actually shown with the audience. He like asks like who's out there in the dark when he's talking to the audience, and he does a little dance. He plays piano. And he eventually at the end he gets sucked back into his pen, and that's how it ends. He says, "I think so long, folks. Not that's all, folks." At the very end of the
Yeah,
cartoon. Yeah, what's your thoughts on this one?
yeah. Well, it's not very good. It's not
Yeah,
particularly funny. I mean, there's somewhat of a novelty of it for it being the first and the sort of live action animation combination because it's not something they really did when the actual short started, but on its own merit.
I mean the Alice comedies
Yeah.
were out for years at that time, and those had implemented live action and animation, so it wasn't not that revolutionary, but it is something.
I just mean for like Looney Tunes, they never really did that. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and yeah, I don't know. Bosko just kind of the whole thing was just kind of meant to showcase like, here, look at this animation we could do. We can make his voice sync up. We can make him play music. Look at this. Isn't this cool? And like maybe
yeah,
it was cool if you were a producer in 1929, but it's not really that cool now.
yeah, and like the one thing that I do get is like a lot like obviously sound cartoons had been around for a while. Like the first one was I believe My Old Kentucky Home from 1926. So they'd already been around for like 3 years prior, but like this is one of the first cartoons to be like heavily dialogue based cuz like the early Mickey Mouses with sound like they had a couple lines of dialogue, but they were not dialogue based. And most of the other sound cartoons around that time had sound, but it was usually the sound was focused on like sound effects or music and not dialogue. So like the dialogue focus on this short is something to note. However, I don't
Yeah,
think the short is very good. We have like a, a really bad Bosco voice, like the racist Bosco voice, and that kind of just defines this cartoon for me because Bosco just fucks around. He doesn't do anything. So I just think about that really shitty voice. And like there's nothing funny in it. I get that
yeah,
it's um like important obviously because it's the test pilot for like one of the greatest animated series ever, but it's not very good and I don't have anything that I like about it. I mean, it's not like I hate it and I think it's the worst thing ever. It's just there's literally nothing good about it, but just not anything like it's not like the worst thing ever. Yeah.
yeah. I think one thing, I think the dialogue focus in this, as you mentioned, makes the voice, like the racism in the voice, much more like hard
Yeah.
to get through. Because like it's in the next short, but there's barely any dialogue in the next short, so you won't notice it as much.
Yeah.
And also, that leads to another point, how the focus of this was to show that they could make a dialogue-based short, but that isn't actually what they did once they started the series. Like, if you see the next one, the next few shorts, they don't talk much. They just kind of, fuck around, do the same sound effects, song and dance that were in all the other sound cartoons before this. So they weren't really breaking any new ground once they actually got the opportunity to.
Yeah. And I guess that brings us to the first official Looney Tune, Sinking in the Bathtub. I just want to clarify that like a lot of these release dates aren't the most accurate and a lot of them are speculation, but I'm just going off what the wiki says and supposedly it was released on April 19th, 1930. It was directed by Hugh Horman and Rudolph Ising as like a team, and yeah, basically this cartoon follows Bosco again, and it starts with him, well, singing in the bathtub, and his like bathtub comes alive. He does a little dance, and like the main plot of this short is that he goes to Honey's place. Honey is Bosco's girlfriend and the main female character in these shorts. Like, not just that, but like the second most important character in like the Bosco series of shorts. And he goes over there. He picks her up in a car, and they go for a ride. And some wacky, crazy, crazy things happen on that ride, and like falling down a hill, and then they're okay, and it ends. Again, not much happens. One thing, uh, one thing that's pretty cool is, I mean, not really cool, but like they use "Tiptoe Through the Tulips" at the beginning, which is a song they were. I think was in the Warner Brothers music catalog, and then they use what's the song called? I think it's called "I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles" when Bosco is like playing the sax outside of Honey's place, and like the bubbles come out like that. They use that song, and Honey does a little dance, and yeah, it's not very eventful. I really wish I had more to say about these ones, but like, it's not much.
Yeah, I think the big thing with this one is the animation. There's some pretty cool like rubber hosey movement in this. Like especially I think in the scene, like the action scene where they're like going on the car and it's like falling down the hill and like Bosko's trying to catch up with it. It's kind of neat in that regard, but it's really, really not entertaining otherwise. It's not funny at all. Like they try to be funny. You can tell that there's gags in this, but they don't land. They're mostly visual gags, but they're really simple. They're too simple.
The problem is like with a visual gag, there still has to be a punchline. There's no punchline in these cartoons. Like a gag will be like, "Oh, the bathtub comes alive and dances," and I get that the joke is bathtubs don't come alive, but that doesn't and dance, but
Yeah,
that doesn't make it funny. It's just like, oh, yep, this is a thing they could do in a cartoon. And we've talked about this before, but I don't think the main purpose of these original Boscos was to be funny because there was a lot of actually funny things around this time, like Abbott and Costello, and I think that it was just the novelty of animation. People were like, "Wow, look at these drawings that are moving," and I get to see moving drawings when I go to the movie theater. Well, how cool! So people were just
yeah.
entertained looking at it.
I think it's also worth noting that it's not like Bosco was like the most successful cartoon character or anything. Like there was Mickey Mouse during this time. There was also like Fleischer cartoons, and those were generally more popular. So it's not like these are like particularly beloved even back then.
Yeah, I feel like Warner Bros. Kind of started off like pretty behind the curve because if you look at stuff that Disney and Fleischer was doing around this time, it's miles
Yeah,
above this. Like if you look at stuff like the Skeleton Dance from 1929 or like when did Swing
that
These
was
Sinners come out? Was
that
that
was
1929,
1931.
1930? Same
Yeah.
year.
Well, that cartoon is miles
It's
better.
like an insanely good
It holds
cartoon.
up today.
And same fucking
Yeah,
year. It's unbelievable how behind the curve Warner Bros. Was, and it takes them quite a while
yeah,
to catch up.
yeah,
Quite a long time.
yeah. We're not
Years
going
and
to be very
years.
positive on this show for a while,
I mean, there's good ones here and there.
but yeah,
I mean, I can't say I like any of the 1930s, but there's some ones I like in 1931 and beyond.
yeah,
And I mean, there's some I think are okay. So let's move. Oh,
yeah. You keep going.
something.
I don't have much
No,
more to
no, no,
say.
no.
I don't have much more to say on Sinkin in the
Yeah,
Bathtub.
yeah. I think that's going to be a pretty common theme with these Boscos not having much to say because not much fucking happens in these.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So next we have Congo Jazz, released on September 22nd, 1930, and it's directed by Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising. Um, this one follows. Oh yeah, also pretty notable thing. This was on one of the Golden Collections, I believe, volume 6. So it's one of the few Bosco cartoons to have a restoration available, which is pretty cool.
yeah,
And it looks really good.
yeah. It does.
Yeah, it looks pretty good, and it's one of the best looking cartoons this year. It follows Bosco in the Congo in the jungle, and stuff happens. He
Yeah,
sees again not too much of plot. He fucks around with a tiger. He sees a monkey with their kids, and he like chews gum and like gives one of the monkeys gum, and they like fuck around with their gum. And Then there's a big dance party with like all of these animals turning into instruments, and like there's a there's a fucking palm tree with like big palm tree coconut titties that gets reused a couple of times, and I think that's the highlight of this cartoon. The giant coconut titties of the booby palm tree. I think that fucking raises this cartoon to the best of 1930. Like, think about this. All of the other cartoons this year don't have a boob tree. Guess what this one has? It has a fucking giant ass coconut titty tree. No other 1930 cartoon has that. So just top of the game shit. Just quality shit from Rudolph and Isaac and wait, Rudolph Hugh Holman and Rudolph Isaac. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this one's okay for 1930 standards. One moment that stuck out to me is when Bosco quite literally spanks the monkey. I thought that was kind of. I think there was
Yeah.
definitely some double entendre intended there.
I didn't think about that. It
Yeah,
took me a second. Yeah. That Hays Code would come around. They wouldn't like Bosco spanking the monkey for all to see.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know how Rudy Eisen got away with that one.
yeah. Um, there's definitely some kind of edgy jokes in these early ones before the Hayes Code, but like with like the palm tree and everything. But it's not anything that impressive. There's one moment in particular that's kind of shocking, but that's in a few years from now. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
What are you referring to now? I'm curious.
Bosco's picture show.
Oh yeah. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that, guys.
Anyway, this short, like Dorian said, the animation is good. It's got a lot of nice movement to it, especially in like the dancing scene. This one you could tell they're trying to be funny with like the gags of Bosco fucking around with like the animals, giving them gum and stuff. It's still not that funny though. It's better than average for 1930, but that's not really gonna cut it in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. So next we have Hold Anything. This was released on October 29th, 1930. Also directed by Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising. This one is probably the one with the least plot. I feel like a lot of these cartoons are just like Bosco in the jungle, Bosco on a train, Bosco at a construction site, which is this one, and basically Bosco is walking at a construction site with a bunch of mice, and then he sees Honey through a window, and they do a song and dance number, and then the cartoon kind of ends. There's very little plot to this one at all. Just, like very, very little happens. It's just look at this animation. One thing of note, and it's the highlight of Hold Anything, a classic cartoon for the ages, is Bosco decapitates one of the mice who's walking at the construction site. And there's another example of decapitation in 1930. So we could say that 1930 is the year of decapitation. What do you think about that? What do you think about the year of
I
decapitation?
agree. I think decapitation is a really, really good common theme among these shorts. It happens
Yeah,
in this one.
really ties them together.
Yeah. And one thing that is interesting to note is that in this short, Bosco is decapitating someone else. He's decapitating the mouse. But in the next example, in Boxcar Blues, which is a few shorts from now, Bosco himself gets decapitated. So if you really think about it, I think harmonizing might be trying to tell us something about karma and how everything you do is going to come back to get you.
Yeah. There's really deep meaning in these Bosco cartoons. Like most audiences like won't get that, but you really watch these Bosco cartoons and really think about what's happening in them. You really get a new perspective, not
Yeah,
just on the cartoons, but in life in general. Rudolph Ising and Hugh Harman were fucking geniuses. They were fucking. You know how people say, "Oh, Simpsons predicts the future." Bosco predicts life. Bosco gives you the greatest fucking life advice you could ever fucking get. It teaches you so many lessons. You know, before I had watched a Bosco cartoon, I was nothing. I was nothing. Bosco fucking changed my life. And I can say this with 100% certainty. No sarcasm. I'm 100% serious. And we can't forget like Bosco's insane commentary on late stage capitalism. It's insane, you know.
that is facts. That is facts. Like how Bosco is basically forcing these animals to work on the construction site. Like you don't see them getting paid.
And the abuse of the locals with the decapitation, getting their meager pay.
Yeah, it's just showing like how much the American laborer has to put up with just to survive. And I think this was especially poignant since this came out at the height of the Great Depression, 1930. This was really telling a message to the audiences that they should rise up and not have to take this anymore.
Yeah, so back to the cartoon. What do you think about it?
Oh, it's boring.
What do you think of Bosco messing around at a construction site, seeing honey through a window, and a little song and dance? Oh yeah, there's one joke of note. So basically, when Bosco sees honey through the window, uh, she's on a typewriter, right? And like she types out a note, and it says, "Gee, you look swell," and then like the camera zooms onto the note. And I think the joke is supposed to be, haha, she typed it out when she could have just said it. But it's so dull, and I'm not even sure if it's a joke. Like, what are they doing there?
It's so
Like,
drawn out.
holy
Like it
shit.
just like takes up a whole scene of like nothing important happening. Not that this cartoon has a lot of important happening anyway. It's really dragging it out for no
It's
reason.
just moving images. It's moving
Yeah,
images. It's this one's probably the most boring Bosco cartoon in general because literally nothing happens.
it's a
And
pain to watch.
there's at least some semblance of plot or some semblance of a cool idea in other ones. This one's really shitty.
Yeah,
Don't watch this one. You'll just be bored out of your mind. You'll waste 6 minutes of your life. I've seen this one twice now, so 12 minutes of my life have been dedicated to this awful cartoon.
I have also seen it twice for this podcast. I would never have rewatched this were it not for that. One thing that's worth noting about this is the title of this short, Hold Anything, is a parody of a movie which came out around the same time called Hold Everything, which is lost media.
Oh, Lost Media. Yeah, we gotta get the Hold Everything search team together. So yeah, on the Bugs Bunny Factory, we are looking to find Hold Everything. So you Lost Media sleuths out there, you gotta find it for us because we're fucking desperate, you know.
Yeah, and we have like this is our full-time job. We can't spend all day looking for Hold Everything because it takes a long time to make these podcasts. I spend every waking moment recording, editing, writing these scripts, and rewatching these cartoons for you, our faithful audience. So you better appreciate that.
Yeah. So on to the next cartoon.
Yeah,
Okay. So next one we have The Booze Hangs High. Um, Originally released on December 16th, 1930. And of course, it's directed by Hugh Holman and Rudolph Ising. And this one's pretty interesting. Basically, Bosco's on the farm. He's messing around with some cows. They do a little dance. They do some visual gags. They like tap dance, and Bosco uses a rake to like play the banjo while he's riding his horse. And then he comes to this like group of pigs, and they are like he puts like their food in the trowel, and there's like a bottle of alcohol in it, and they get drunk off their asses, and Oscar gets drunk off their asses, and then they be drunk. So that's pretty cool. I think this one's interesting too because this was like prohibition was still a thing when this came out, so to have a cartoon so focused on alcohol is pretty interesting. And there's more prohibition era shorts that have alcohol as a focus on them. I think I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Um, I think this short, I think it definitely picks up once they get drunk because there's some kind of amusing gags with that. Like when the big pig vomits out a piece of corn because he's so drunk. That was probably pretty controversial at the time. I don't think showing vomit on screen was something that you would see back then often. I think the problem with this short is it takes so long to set up. The first like almost half of this cartoon is just building up to where Bosko would feed the pigs and um the beer would get mixed in with their food and they get drunk. But nothing happens for that first half. They're just like fucking around and Bosko's like dancing, he's abusing animals again, and it's just boring. It's so boring. I just want to get to the part where they get drunk.
Yeah, he's like fucking around with the animals, like using their tails to make music, Steamboat Willie style. This was like a really big theme back then. And I think it comes from the fact that Walt Disney, very disturbingly, he had a guy whose job it was to bring new cats to Walt Disney's office. He was the cat getter, and Walt Disney would like squeeze their stomachs until they like squeal in the specific way he likes, and he would throw them to the upper side of the room. There would be piles of cats at the upper side of the room. Walt Disney squeezing these cats, throwing them to the upper side. Every day he would go through like 200 cats. And this inspired the animators to depict horrible animal abuse in all of their cartoons for laughs and jokes. What a guy.
Yeah, it's harmonized and came from Disney, as we know, so they had firsthand experience with the horrors of Walt Disney's
Yeah,
atrocities.
I also heard he would like get a bunch of monkeys and like tie their tails together to make like strings of a guitar and like play the monkeys' tails. It was fucking nuts.
Yeah,
Walt Disney, what a crazy guy.
yeah, what a wacky guy. What a silly little man.
He's just a silly little man. Who could blame him? He's not a bad guy. He's a silly little guy.
Yeah,
Old Walt.
classic Walt.
So back to the cartoon. I think this one's okay. Get drunk. That's kind of entertaining. When people get drunk, I am mildly entertained. Yeah. Get drunk.
Yeah, I support getting drunk in cartoons. In cartoons.
Oh yeah, only in cartoons. But on the Bugs Bunny Factory, we support getting drunk, but only in cartoons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love getting drunk, but only
Not
in
even in
cartoons.
like a
Only in
live
cartoons.
action movie. You can't get drunk in that. Only in cartoons from 1930 called The Booze Hangs High in specific.
Yeah, yeah. In any other cartoon, and that would have been just fucked up.
We only support alcohol in this very specific usage. Okay, on to the next cartoon. And the last of 1930, we have Boxcar Blues, aired on Christmas Day, December 25th, 1930. Also directed by Hugh Holming and Rudolph Ising. Basically, Bosco's like hitching a ride at one of the like cars of a train with this hobo pig who's a very iconic character. So iconic that you could buy a puzzle of his likeness, which is
Yeah,
an item that I've wanted for such a long time. I need the fucking hobo pig from Boxcar Blues puzzle. It's one of those sites where it's like Redbubble or whatever, where anybody could like make a puzzle, make her T-shirt or something. So somebody like uploaded. There's this guy on DeviantArt who makes like art of like all these minor characters from one shorts of Looney Tunes. It's really cool actually. So somebody took his drawing from that and like made it into a puzzle. It's obviously like not an official product, but yeah, we found this puzzle of the hobo pig from Boxcar Blues, and it's pretty funny. That's a thing that you could buy and exists.
Yeah, because this short definitely needed merchandise. Definitely the most famous, significant, important short whatsoever.
Well, no, the hobo pig is my favorite part of this cartoon, and I think the hobo pig is my favorite Looney. Like Bugs Bunny, like he's okay. Daffy Duck, eh. You know, Sylvester and Tweety, like eh. Wiley Coyote,
Yeah.
eh. The fucking hobo pig. Oh yeah, I fucking love that hobo
Oh
pig.
yeah.
Best fucking Looney Tunes character ever. I love him. You don't like how they have Bugs Bunny at Six Flags? They should have the hobo pig at Six Flags. You should be able to like beat the hobo pig.
Yeah, I want the hobo
That
pig's
would be so
autograph.
fucking
I
cool.
want I want to hug the hobo pig. I want to love the hobo pig forever.
And not Bosco. Like Bosco shouldn't be there, but just the hobo
Yeah,
pig.
Bosko really brings the short down. He's taking away all of the
Yeah,
hobo pig's screen time, and it's kind of frustrating.
spotlight. Yeah, so in this one, Bosco and the hobo pig are in the back of a train car, and there's some gags. It goes up a hill and then goes through. There's a part where, like, kind of funny, I guess. Like, the hill has pants and it falls down, and you can see the hill's underwear while the train is going up the hill, and then there's a face on the hill, and he's embarrassed, and he pulls up his pants. So that's obviously some sort of gag there. Then Bosco, and they reuse like Bosco. He's on top of the train for whatever reason, and they go down this hill and they keep going through tunnels. Like it's just reused animation that goes for like 3 times. Eventually, in one of the tunnels, Bosco screams "Mammy," which is a reference to the jazz singer, and it's not good shit. It goes back to the racist connotations of Bosko, so that's unfortunate. And at the end of the cartoon, how does this one end again?
Oh yeah, they crash into a tree, and there's like a cow which gets run over by the train, and then
Oh,
Bosko and the
yeah,
hobo pig, they're somehow like completely unscathed by crashing, and they just decide to sing a
yeah,
song to celebrate that they didn't die in a horrible crash.
yeah. This one's pretty boring.
Yeah.
Guys, I mean, the Hobo Pig obviously makes this the best Looney Tune, but other than that, it's pretty boring.
Yeah. One thing that really irritates me about this cartoon is that it has so much reused animation from itself. Like in the scene where Bosco's going through the tunnel, it just loops the same animation of him running around and being like, "Oh no, I'm going through a tunnel," and then goes through a tunnel, and he goes through the tunnel again for some reason, and then there's the racist joke. It's like a really awful few minutes.
This cartoon, I just found out, it entered the public domain in 1958. Is that like the first cartoon to be PD? First
Well,
Looney
no,
Tune?
Sinkin in the bathtub would be because it,
Oh, yeah,
that was a few shorts earlier.
yeah, yeah. Obviously, I'm stupid, but yeah, it's been PD for a long fucking time.
Yeah,
So yeah, you could watch these on YouTube if you want. It's pretty accessible. You could watch all of these 1930 and I think all of 1931 too. You could
yeah,
just upload them to YouTube because they're public domain, which is pretty cool. Well, I think all of the Looney Tunes should be public domain
I
because
agree.
that's how laws should work. But Walt Disney's one greedy bastard, so you gotta wait like a million years to enter the public domain now.
I think it's time to rank. I think it's time to
Uh,
rank our shorts because we don't have enough to make a top and bottom five. All right.
okay, so we're gonna include Talking Kid, right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I was thinking about Talking Kid. Okay, Talking Kid is the worst just for the like overusage of the racist voice. Like I cannot separate that cartoon from the racism with Bosko. So I think by default, Talking Kid is the worst one. I guess it's not on the official 1930 ranking because it's 1929. So at least we got it out of the way right here. So do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. What would you say is the worst main cartoon of 1930?
I definitely have to go with Hold Anything. That one was just so boring. So little fucking happened in it. It's a total drag to watch, and it's at least the others have like some minor, even like really minor charm to it, but that just has nothing.
Yeah, I agree completely. It literally nothing happens in it. There's no reason to watch it. I mean, there's no enjoyment any person is gonna gain out of it. Like, I don't think this is like a hot take. I really don't understand how somebody would like really enjoy that thing. It just exists, and it's one of the 1,000 Looney Tunes. So we're covering it.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the worst of 1980. What do you think? I think the second one is probably. Let me think about this actually. I would say probably Boxcar Blues
Yeah.
because at least Sinking has a bit of plot. And Boxcar Blues is less of a plot. They got the reused animation. They got the mammy joke. Sinking also has a mammy joke. I think we didn't mention that, but at least it has. Sinking probably has the most kind of plot, quote unquote, as any of these cartoons does, even if it's very, very minor. So I think Boxcar Blues is the second worst cartoon of 1930.
And yeah, I agree completely. The Hobo Pig pushes it up above
Uh,
Hold Anything, but other
yeah,
than
Hobo
that, it
Pig
just
cannot
sucks.
save Boxcar Blues, unfortunately. What do you think is the third worst or third best of 1930?
I think right in the middle we have Sinking in the Bathtub because I don't really have much to say about this one way or the other. So I guess this is where it goes.
Yeah, the first Looney Tune, smack dab in the middle. Yeah, it has the racist voice in it. It has,
Yeah,
which is gonna bring it down, and I don't get much enjoyment out of it. Like, I don't get much enjoyment out of any of these cartoons. And the second best one is, in my opinion at least, The Booze Hangs High. The first half is pretty boring, but the second half is mildly amusing, so that's something.
yeah, I agree with that.
The fact that you get any enjoyment out of it is something for this era.
Yeah,
So I would say this is the second best cartoon of 1930. And the restoration of it is pretty nice. So you could watch it on the Golden Collection Volume 6. And same with the number one spot, which to me is Congo Jazz. Well, wait, do you agree with Blues Hangs
yeah,
High being number two?
yeah, I do. I also agree with Congo Jazz being number one.
Yeah, Congo Jazz is my favorite of 1930. And I think it's because the animation on it is very good. The restoration is beautiful. Again, there's no plot in it, but I think it's just enjoyable. I like the vibes of the cartoon. There's good music in it. There's good animation. There's the titty tree. You can't forget the titty tree. So,
Yeah,
it's not a great cartoon. It's 1930, which is something, I guess. So to repeat, we got number 6, Talking Bosco the Talking Kid. Number 5, Hold Anything. Number 4, Oscar Blues. Number 3, Sinking in the Bathtub. Number 2, The Booze Hangs High. And number 1, the best cartoon of 1930, we have Congo Jazz.
yep.
So now this would be the part where would rank the years in order, but since 1930 is the only year we've done so far, we can't really rank it. So 1930 is at this point the best year of the Looney Tunes that we've covered so far, and I think that will hold up for a very long time.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely never going to get topped by any year. Definitely not even going to be topped by the very next year. Nope, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, so I think this is the end of our first episode, guys. So this was the Bugs Bunny Factory.
Yep,
I'm
that's
Dorian.
the end.
That's Anna, and
I'm
this was
Anna.
the Bugs Bunny Factory. Hope you guys had an enjoyable listen. I know it's pretty unstructured and not the most professional podcast ever, but we had fun making this, and thank you guys for listening. Bye.
Yep, have a nice day.